too far into it, I just want to let you know. I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you guys, asking questions, things like that. If you have an answer to one of my questions, just something to say, or a question of your own, please raise your hand, which we called on. You can tell if you get a little bit loud, a little bit echoey, especially if you have other classes joining us. So just don't need a ton of people yelling at me. Sound good? All right. First question. Anyone know what we're doing here? Yeah, exactly. So we are going to be digging for fossils. Does anyone know what we call someone who digs for fossils? What's like the scientist? Yeah. Very good guess. Not quite. We are going to be excavating. Not quite the scientist.
Paleontologist.
Paleontologist, exactly. So today we are going to be practicing paleontology. Now, there may be another scientist you've heard of that sometimes gets confused with paleontology. Maybe you've heard of one. I don't know. Studies older things. Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Archaeologist.
Maybe it starts with an A.
Archaeologist.
Einstein?
No, archaeologist.
Archaeologist, exactly. So, archaeology and paleontology are very, very closely related fields. Both kind of studying similar things. Oftentimes working on the same dig sites together. However, there's one major difference that sets the two apart. Archaeologists only study one creature. Only one thing, one animal. What animal do you think?
Dinosaur.
That's a fantastic guess. Paleontologists study dinosaurs. Another very good guess. Paleontologists study whales. Another very, very good guess. Right, paleontologists study whales as well.
Artifacts.
Another good guess.
They only study artifacts are not
It's
animals.
kind of a weird animal. Kind of a weird creature. Kind of walks around on two legs.
Human.
People.
Very particular about how they look.
Human.
Exactly. Archaeologists study humans, study people, especially things like ancient civilizations, arrowheads, like things like the pyramids, stuff like that. That's all going to be archaeology. See if I can find it. There it is. Some arrowheads, things like this. There's archaeology. Paleontology is focused a lot more on the natural world and things like plants and animals. Now, of course, we are talking about fossils, right? Can anyone give me some examples of fossils? What's something that's a fossil? Yeah. Dinosaur bones. Yep, those are fossils.
Mammoth bones?
Mammoth bones. A lot of bones are the big one. What else? What's something other than bones that can be fossils? Plants can be fossils. What else? There's lots of things that can be fossils. So if you name something, you might be right. Yep. Yeah.
CiCi. Wood.
What else? We got plants, we got bones. Wood, yeah.
Because remember the petrified forest?
Mm-hmm. We do have some fossil elements. Their bones. If I walk around the box here, what's all showing up behind me? Thank you very much. I'm glad you said it. So, fossilized dung, fossilized poop is another one, what we call coprolites. I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of my favorites. A lot of times you'll see me with a cart full of it in our bone bed area talking about it. So glad you mentioned it. Another one, as I'm walking around here, what shows up behind me?
Sand?
Good guess. Some kind of sediments, technically, some rocks are, but it's more kind of
What is
what
he
you
leaving
expect.
behind?
Like anyone walk around here. Yes.
Footprints.
Footprints and trails can be fossils as well. So there's lots and lots of things, right? So another thing, so basically the general definition of a fossil is any trace of life that is older than 10,000 years old. Anyone tell me why we would use 10,000 years? Why does something have to be 10,000 years old to be a fossil? That's a fantastic guess. Not quite. For example, the bones at our site are considered fossils, but they aren't actually fossilized. And I'll get to all that in just a second. It's a little bit confusing.
Older than the last ice age?
Exactly. So, about 10,000 years ago is when the last ice age ended. So, along with it, a lot of global changes, a lot of extinctions. So things like giant short-faced bears, saber cats, all started going extinct. Mammoths started dying off as well. So that's kind of why we use about 10,000 years. Now, I'm glad you brought up fossils versus fossilized because There are different kinds of fossils, different ways to preserve. So one you may be a little bit familiar with is a petrified fossil, a piece of petrified wood. It is what we consider fossilized. So it's been completely turned to stone. All the organic materials have been replaced by minerals. You can see it looks very different from this modern piece of wood. I'll actually let you guys pass these around if you'd like. You can kind of feel the difference. One's much more dense, a little bit colder to the touch. Coloration is definitely a bit different. So that is one very popular kind of fossil. A lot of times we'll find dinosaur bones that are petrified just because they're so old. They have to be at least 65 million years old. Compared to the bones on our side are a little bit different. They're much, much younger. So this bone here kind of looks normal, looks like a normal piece of bone, right? Nothing too special. It is actually a piece of mammoth bone that was discovered at our site. It's been just kind of preserved in its natural state. It's not been fossilized like that piece of wood has. Kind of as a comparison, you have this cow bone here. You can still see like the sponginess, you see all the little holes. It's very similar. So I'll let you pass these around.
Cool, huh?
So fossilized though is heavier, right?
Yes, fossilized means
So-
it's been completely turned to stone.
That's
Whereas
rock.
you'll notice whenever
That's
you
wood.
touch the mammoth bone, it is not.
So, are there any like bones that aren't fossilized that are still the bone structure? Or
Actually, all the bones at our site are exactly like that. None of them have been fossilized, none of them have been petrified, none of them have been fossilized. So, aren't old enough to know the right conditions, but yes. Generally, things like dinosaur bones are much too old.
so there's no actual dinosaur bones that aren't fossilized?
I don't know for sure, but I know if there are, they're very, very rare. Fantastic. Any other questions before we keep going? Alright, well, so if you guys are going to be in the class, if you want to take your shoes off, you can. It's going to get very dirty, very dusty up in here. So if you don't want to be tracking shoes or tracking sand back into your cars, I highly recommend it. And also take your socks off so your parents aren't upset with me later.
Everything's washable.
So one of these is fossilized and one of them is not?
Actually, one of them is the mammoth bone. The one on your left is mammoth bone. The other is cow bone.
So this is, but neither are fossilized.
Yeah, either.
So mammoth bone.
So if it was fossilized, would it still have this little holes and everything?
Those would all be filled in by the minerals and by the
So
rocks.
that's mammoth
Look
bone,
very, very different. Look more like that piece of wood that went around earlier. Yeah.
and that's cow bone.
Alrighty. So, a few more kind of just general rules before we get into this. One,
This
we are
is the
not going to be
mammoth
running anywhere in this building, especially not in our
Mammoth, that's
boxes.
mammoth, that's cow.
There's going to be a lot of holes from you guys digging, as well as this caution tape here. Don't want you guys tripping and hurting yourselves. Another thing, you can kind of see this box we're working in, this concrete square. We are not going to be sitting on that edge just because it is quite a drop from here if you accidentally lose your balance. So we want to make sure you guys stay in the box. One more thing, to get into the box, we're going to be using that set of stairs over there. I'm not going to be climbing up the walls or anything like that. Again, we want to hopefully learn a few things, we want to have fun, but we want to be safe while we're doing it, right? So, without further ado, I'm going to have all of you guys actually come stand up here near the edge, just a few more things. Don't start digging quite yet, I promise I'll have plenty of time here in just a second. Alright, so, paleontologists are looking for fossils. Do they just start doing this, digging like this? No, they use. Can anyone tell me? Tools, thank you. They are using tools. What kind of tools? Paintbrushes. Exactly. So you can dig into my paper here. Are you using? Grab it. Paintbrushes. Can anyone tell me what we use them for? Exactly. To brush up dirt. Mostly when we found a fossil, this is going to be a cleaning tool. It's very soft, so it's very good at that. However, it's very bad at dating. So it doesn't really work too well, does it? So usually it's when we find something, clean it off. It's soft and gentle enough. Works pretty well. It doesn't damage the bone. For digging, we have some other tools, like our whisk brush. It's like one of the best tools we have. It's a lot more coarse than the paintbrush is. It can move dirt around in the mud much better. So, one thing we want to be careful of with this one, is we don't want to flick our wrist too much or start if we get too excited, we start doing that. That feels a lot of dirt right behind you, right? someone in line, you can get right in their face, right in their eyes, which wouldn't be fun, right? So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure just kind of push it around like that. Can you tell me some other tools? Okay, so I'll just make use. Any other ideas? No, that's all right. Another one we got here is called our trowel. Looks kind of like a shovel, right? But the one thing that's different is it's very flat. It doesn't have that like cup thing on the shovel. So you can kind of scoop stuff up, but the second you move, it all falls off, right? So mostly this is going to just be for loosening up dirt. So if the dirt's really packed down, it's really hard, you can use your brushes and loosen it up like this. It's a little bit easier. One thing we are not going to be doing, we are not going to start stabbing around randomly. Why not? Exactly, we can damage the bone. I will let you know the ones in here are replicas, they're exact copies. The researchers spent years uncovering them. They wouldn't want us burying them back up. But they are still very fragile, very breakable. So we don't want to hit them too hard with these. Another thing is we don't want you guys hitting yourselves or each other. While you're digging, you might notice your hand is buried or something like that, maybe your foot. You hit your hand with this, it's not going to be fun, right? It's going to hurt a lot. Even though it is dull, it's not sharp, it's still metal. It still hurt a lot. So I want to be very, very careful with this tool at all times. Okay. One more tool. Very, very high tech, but it's actually one of the most useful tools we have. And you'll actually see bone paleontologists using this as well. Kind of our scoop. Scoop with lots and lots of dirt and moved around. I also highly, highly recommend brushing dirt into the it's a little bit easier. Because if you just kind of leave it in piles, it's leaking. If you kind of leave it around in piles around your hole you're digging into, the dirt will keep falling back in. So we want to use these a lot more. Now, when we got dirt in here, we just kind of want to dump it off to the side here. Not quite. What do you see a lot of behind you? Buckets. Exactly. So we're going to be putting all the dirt into these buckets. Now you'll notice with most of them, they'll have a line on the inside, like right about here. Try to only fill up to about that line, just because if it goes past that, it gets very, very heavy. I don't want you guys moving these around when they're really full, just because I don't want you straining yourselves and accidentally tear a tendon or anything like that. So you want to be very careful. If they don't have a line, try to only fill them up to about like this ledge here. Now, one more thing. Anyone have any idea what we do when we find a box? I mean, yeah, for sure. I said you can communicate. This is going to be a simulated dig where we're all working together as a team to try to find things. Yes. Communicate, tell them, and then you can have people kind of help identify the bone you're finding. Exactly. Do we want to take them out of the ground right away? No, why not? Exactly. That's the biggest part. We don't want to break them. Especially, for example, if one of those like still all out buried and you start pulling on it, you could just break it in half, which would be good, right? Another thing you'll notice, a lot of them are very, very big, especially like the buses and things like that. You take them out of the ground and start walking around with them. If you hit someone in the back of the head, wouldn't be fun, right? Don't want to do that. Another thing we like to talk about is context. So, like say you find a mammoth bit. You just pull it right up out of the ground. Imagine if it was attached to a full skeleton. Hold that rib outside. It'd still be really cool fight, but it'd be kind of ruining, right? We don't want to do that. We want to leave all the bones exactly where they belong. Sound good? All right. So I can tell you guys I'm tired of me talking. So I'll have them all head over to the ladder. Please try to stay in the groups you came here with. That means you guys partnered up together. All right.
It's a good thing we're showering tonight.
I definitely recommend taking all of your tools out of your buckets so they don't get buried in
Nope, there's your little paintbrush tubes in there. This is gonna be cool. Just sit. Your clothes are washable.
I'll also let you know that this phone in my hand right here is the smallest phone in our box. Everything is going to be larger than this.
Sweet. Get at it, girl. Mm.
Ooh, I would try something like right here, see? Seriously, I would come over here.
Just like. Dig around in there, kiddo. Oh, there's
Start using
something.
your bucket to pull some of that out.
Find something over here? Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Here you go, kiddo. Here's your other stuff too. So that's probably going to be pretty big if this one here is the smallest one in the thing. Here, you put your thing down. Is this cool?
So actually, because it's actually very trying to get them out here, especially.
I wonder what that is. That's pretty cool. It kind of looks like it might be a vertebrae.
Oh wow. What do you think that is? That's a good guess, I think. You see any pictures of from that poster over there on the wall, right behind you? There's.
Oh, that one. Oh, that one.
Atlas. I think it probably could be. It's got some holes up to the sides too. So that would be the first neck bone. It'd be like the one pegged right here head up.
So right at the bottom of their head.
Yeah, I just recommend looking for some other ones.
All right.
I've done something like this enough times that
Oh, yay. There's your thing so you can move the dirt. Yeah, since it's just you. Don't pull it out.
I feel it though.
It could be a tusk. It could be a rib bone. Your big one will probably push that dirt out a little bit faster.
Awesome job. Oh wow, that's something else right away.
Uh-huh. See, all your friends at back home are back at school and
Oh, I bet they're so good.
hashtag homeschool.
There you go.
And chances are they never stop.
That's true. That's because they're slackers. In the bucket's easier, so you don't have to like.
Yeah, because what if there's a bone right behind you? Where
I
you're
know. You're just reburying it.
I can move it closer.
Ooh.
Believe it or not, paleontologists do use those supers.
I am not surprised.
It is like super handy.
Repurpose, reuse, recycle.
Exactly. I was saying those also won't harm bones, like a shovel blade.
Yeah.
It's getting recovered.
All right, it's going pretty good on this one. Ooh, is that a hole in the middle right there?
Can't tell.
Interesting. It kind of narrows it down a little bit.
Yep. Come back this way and see how far it comes back this way too.
Let me finish this part up so the
Huh?
there's more bone right here.
Uh-huh. Oh, that is not what I thought it was going to be.
Okay, where does the bone stop?
Never.
I guess so.
It's forever and ever and ever.
This is exhausting.
Let's see. I think I know which one it is.
How many did you find so far?
She's on her second one, but this one's really big.
The second you said it on, you wrote,
I know.
Sure, honey. This is what it is.
because the bone is right here.
Okay.
can't work my fingers down my hand around it. It's way too thick. However, what I think you have, this is a bit thinner, but it's still also curved. Actually, a rib bone.
Look at you.
Keep going. We're gonna need to dig out some more data. Yeah, you definitely really well.
I bet if you just dust it off, you could probably figure out what it is. Do I look like I have go-go gadget arms? Ooh, there you go. So that hose back there, we can use it to hose her off, right?
Yes. That's what it's there for.
Come this side,
Do you think it's, do you have it narrowed down to any like particular part of it?
No, maybe it's.
Look over here, honey.
It does have some kind of defining features. Kind of got this weird twist right here. And it's got this joint to make this curve.
What do you think? You think it's anything up here? This one? That one. Femur? Or the humerus? Which one? He's going to bring you an example.
Two connecting things compared to both leg bones. Technically. So, one is the femur. It's this one, and this one's the humerus. It's coming up the same twist, right? Yeah, right there. And the joint, connector part at the top. So I think you do have a humerus. It is the funny bone.
Yep. All right, so we got a neck bone, a humerus, and she's digging for 3.
10 more minutes.
How fast can you dig?
Oh, don't worry.
Down in there. It was deeper.
Sometimes they're a bit loose. There's power.
Did you feel it? Huh? Feel it now? Okay.
Can you help this way?
Oop. It's going to be back towards you a little bit too, see? Careful.
Yeah, so go ahead and dig all that up. You're there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's definitely another one. Just the color. There are many rocks that go ahead and keep getting bigger and bigger. Also, there are many rocks that big. That's right there. And I know where all of them are. I think you're pretty close. I think you're in the right area. Because you kind of uncovered the.
I think we should be on
There are 5, so there's still one more somewhere. Found another one over here.
Yep.
Scooping all that out.
stops right here. So it's, but it goes on to over here.
See how fast.
How fast can you dig, child? Dig, dig, dig.
There's more.
There's always one.
She's like, wait a minute.
Some of the bones still in bus is very sneaky.
Yeah.
This is the bone.
Here's your big brush. Your big brush. Okay.
There's more right here.
Mm-hmm. Get your bucket thingy. And there you go. Whoop. It ends right there on that side.
And no clue where it ends here. Let me see. It ends right
Is it
here.
right there? Okay.
So the only thing that has a B is go look at the feet.
Which one do you think it might be?
What are you looking at? Like this one or that one?
The first one.
That's a bare mandible. I don't think it's quite.
Here, do you want me to bring you a replica over of the one you have?
Yeah.
Good.
Hold on. No, stop.
Holy mother.
So, I believe you have found this one.
Yep.
This top part here. So you said that there was more, and you were definitely right. There's quite a bit. So this is the scapula.
That's this one, see? That's a huge bone.
Yes. So you can definitely keep going if you want, but if you want to try to find others, you can do that too. This one's a really hard one to excavate.
Yeah.
Find other ones.
We have 5 more minutes.
You got like 5 minutes. Is this cool?
You already said that.
So this one here is the scapula. It's the shoulder bone. It's that giant one sitting over there on the seat. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. We're gonna see if she can find something else.
That's part of it, probably. Also, again, like a like that sort of just kind of as an example that can be 65 million compared to like 140,000 is quite
I feel like there's something
different.
right here.
Okay.
I can't open this.
We're away, but we haven't tried that.
But you said the bones have lost a lot of their like.
Uh-huh.
Yes, so a lot of them, like, if you get them on,
Dig, dig, dig.
because they want to
We were here 8 years ago today with our
Yeah.
oldest daughter.
Nice.
She was in the same, like the exact same spot.
That's awesome.